Do you know how powerful you are? Welcome to the Risepreneurs Podcast.
Welcome to Risepreneurs.
Reshaping and elevating your mindset to help you achieve what you believe.
Sometimes we don't even see our own greatness. You can't be what you can't see.
And connecting Black cultures to build a community of talent and success.
Black people need to realize that they are assets. You are an asset.
When we rise, you rise.
Come together as a group.
This is Risepreneurs with Terrell Simmons.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Risepreneurs. I'm your host, Terrell Simmons. I want to thank you for joining us for another episode. This next gentleman that I'm bringing to you that I had the pleasure of talking with, Kuda Biza, entrepreneur, author, speaker, philanthropist, just an amazing individual that I have got to connect with. He's done everything from build profitable companies to solve some of the world's biggest problems, especially in that education and hunger space. You know, every company that he's kind of touched, built, managed is designed to really deliver profit and value while empowering the vulnerable people everywhere to become the best version of themselves, which is often my motto and what we try to do here. So I wanted to take you through his journey and some of the things that he's been doing. So sit back, relax, stay tuned, and enjoy the episode.
If you ask my parents, they'll say Kuda is our son. If you ask my wife, she'll say Kuda is my husband. I was just talking to my niece and nephew. They'll tell you that Kuda is our favorite uncle. But I think one common thing they'll say is that Kuda is an entrepreneur. I've started 7 businesses. I started my first business when I was 9 years old, when I was still in Harare, Zimbabwe. And ever since then, I was 9. And, ever since then, once you scratch that itch, it never goes away, right? So I just, knew that I'm stuck with this whole entrepreneurship thing. So when I was in college, I started my second business and just kept on going. I'm that type of person who, when I see a problem and I feel like it's big enough and, I feel that I can solve it, I just figure out a way to solve it. And I've done it across multiple industries. I've done it across multiple geographies. One of my businesses was in Saudi Arabia. So think about it, a Christian African guy owning a business in a Muslim country. So it was quite interesting, and talk about breaking barriers. And I've done it across different funding structures. I've bootstrapped some of my businesses. I've worked in a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate where I was able to launch new businesses from scratch in that environment. And I've also done it by, being VC backed. So I've kind of done it all across the gamut, really. So I think that's one key defining thing about who I am. So I think, to say I've always had the confidence would be a lie. I think even now, there's certain things that I do where, I've never done it before. So there's always that element of am I going to do it? Am I going to get it done? But what I've been able to do over the past few years is really just develop a resilience muscle, right? Where I've just been resilient. And for me, I actually don't like being in my comfort zone. So when I feel like, okay, I'm comfortable now, I don't feel like any element of being scared or like I'm doing something that I've never done before. That's the scary part for me. I never want to be in a place where I'm comfortable, because when you're in your comfort zone, you stop growing. So the only way you can grow is by always taking yourself out of, what's ordinary and regular, and, there's minimal risk. I want to be in that, place where I'm always feeling, a sense of pressure and a little bit of stress, and I'm taking risks, because I know by doing that, I'll be able to accomplish great things. But more importantly, I will continue on that growth path that I want to be on. And I think any entrepreneur or anybody really, you always want to be stepping outside of your comfort zone, because there are 2 realities in life. It's either you're growing or you're dying, right? You can never just be stagnant, right? So you always want to be growing. And the only way you can grow is by stepping outside of your comfort zone every single day and doing something that you've never done before, and taking a little bit of risk. So for me, that's the way I see it.
When you look at fear and you choose to do the latter, and I attribute that to what I was talking about earlier, mindset. Like, how does one start to develop that mindset? Because you have the perfect mindset to be an entrepreneur and to go through this. how does one start to cultivate and develop that mindset if they don't have that mindset that you have?
I think you have to do it, step by step, day by day. I wasn't born this way, right? Nobody was born, a certain way. So for example, Jeff Bezos, right? He wasn't born as the CEO of Amazon and this like the richest man in the world. He had to take small actions consistently to get where he is today. Because think about it. There was a day in our lives when Amazon was just an idea. It didn't exist. But he had to take action consistently over a period of time to what we see today. So it's the same thing with mindset, right? We're all born as babies. We kind of like start off kind of like on the same, plate, right? We need our parents to survive. We don't even know how to walk. And then over time, we start becoming independent, and also we start developing our mindset. So I think the small actions you take on a single day consistently are the things that will then enable you to have that mindset that enables you to thrive as an entrepreneur. Because if you think about our brain really is wired for survival. If you really want to thrive, you actually need to train yourself to go against the will of your brain to then actually thrive. So to answer your question as to how I develop this mindset is every single day I make it a point to do what I call conscious risk taking, where I consciously take a small risk because it then helps me build that resilience muscle so that when I'm in the boardroom or I need to make a very big decision and fear starts to creep in, I know how to overcome that mechanism in my brain, which will have me kind of like back out and not move forward, to then just take control and do it, because every single day I'm putting myself in situations where I have to consciously take a risk. And conscious risk taking doesn't mean that go and climb Mount Everest, right? Because, if you think about risk taking, that's a big risk, right? It could be as small as, you wake up in the morning and, you say like, you know what, F it, I'm going to take a cold shower. Your body wants you to be comfortable and warm, but you're going to say like, no, I'm the boss and we're going to take this freaking cold shower. Or you go out and you're working out and you leave your house and you say like, hey, I'm going to run 5K. That's all I'm going to do. Well, at the end of the 5K, you just say like, you know what, F it, I'm going to do another 5K, right? So you're consciously taking a risk and your body is kind of like, okay, no, just go home now. You've done it. Good job. But now you add more to it and you're slowly building that resilience muscle that enables you to go that extra mile. But more importantly, that enables you to just have this mindset where you're able to just break through in the midst of, your brain telling you like, don't do it. It's okay. You're done. You just want to continue pushing forward and driving through it. And that's really the difference, really, in terms of like people who become, super successful and people who don't. It is the accumulation of the small, consistent actions they take each day. You look into their daily routines, their daily habits, and the things that they do. Those are the things that enable them to become, whoever it is that they become. Because when you really like start boiling it down, some of the highly successful people, they're probably not the smartest, right? They don't have like PhD degrees. They didn't go to Harvard. Some, billionaires are high school dropouts, right? But what they've been able to do is they've been able to really understand the psychology around how to become successful and then just do it consistently until they do it. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to also understand that, yes, it's good to be educated, but there are other soft skills that enable you to become successful that you need to do, but you don't need to do them once in a while. The theme is do them consistently, and ultimately you will then achieve success.
I heard you mention entrepreneur a couple of times now. So, and this is a term that, a lot of people are familiar with. In your eyes, what's the biggest difference between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur?
Well, if you're an entrepreneur, you're working within kind of like an organization. So remember, I told you that I was working in this big Fortune 500 company and I was an entrepreneur, right? So they would basically say like, hey, come up with ideas. And if we like them and they're good, we'll fund them. So I kind of like get the backing and the comfort of like knowing like, hey, if I come up with this idea, the resources are there, right? I didn't have to worry about, I need to raise the money. I need lawyers. Everything was there at my disposal, right? I was in this big conglomerate. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, you might have the amazing idea, but you might not have the resources, right? You might not have the money, you might not have the team, you might not have the brand, and all these different things to really help you become successful. So I think that's really the difference between the two. But ultimately, fundamentally, both are problem solving, right? They're identifying a problem and coming up with an innovative solution to solve it.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Now, I want to take a deep dive back, go back to the beginning. And we kind of alluded to this early in our conversation where we talked about, when you talked about Jeff Bezos, like he may have started off with this idea. He didn't become a billionaire overnight. And often I tell people, it's an accumulation of, the thought, the process and so forth and the journey, right? And a lot of people, when they have that thought, they want to go from 0 to 100. And I tell people, take that first job, because there's things that you could do in that first job that you can learn, that you can take with you along life as you start to progress. Especially our young folks, they want to just like, I want to go directly into real estate, so I'm not going to take any job because I want to be a real estate mogul, right? And I like asking people this question: what was your first job, so that they can see the progression of where you're at today versus where you used to be at? What was your first job?
Does my first business when I was 9 count?
Okay, give me the first business at 9, and then give me your first actual paid job. Not paid job, but working for an employer.
When I was working for someone. Okay. So obviously, at 9, I started my window cleaning business, where I was going around the neighborhood and cleaning people's business. Keep cleaning people's windows. That was, quote unquote, my first business, my first job. But my first real job, where it was kind of like, you come in, you clock in and you clock out type of thing, was when I finished high school. So when I finished my senior year, and I was on this journey to want to come to America. Because remember, I was born in Africa, I had this dream to come to America, but I didn't come from a rich family who could afford paying for an American education. So I had to find a way to actually have money to pay for my college applications, to pay for my SAT exams, and so forth and so forth. So I also didn't have internet at home, and I needed internet to apply for my college applications as well as also study for my SATs. So when I graduated high school, for me, it became logical to find a job at an internet cafe, because I needed internet as a resource to really help me with my dream of coming to America. So what I did is I went to a guy who owned an internet cafe, and I basically told him, like, hey, listen, if I ask you for a job right now, you'll probably say, hey, I have enough staff or whatever, right? But what I'm going to present to you is a no-lose situation where you have nothing to lose. It's upside. It's all upside for you. And, what I had realized was that his internet cafe would open from 6 p.m. Sorry, it would open from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. So it was a 12-hour shift. And he didn't have a night shift. And a lot of people would finish work at 6 p.m. And, that's the time when they could actually come to an internet cafe, use the internet before they go home. So I told him, like, hey, listen, I'll be your night shift guy. I'll come in and I'll start at 6 p.m. and we can shut it down at 11 p.m. This way, you keep your current staff that's there. I'll be willing to, come in and work. And the additional revenue that you'll get from opening this extra 5 hours will cover for my salary. And you probably get, more money and become profitable from that side. So you really don't have anything to lose. So it was kind of like a no-lose scenario. So that was my first job. And what I would do is I would then sleep in the internet cafe from 11 p.m. until 6 in the morning. And that was the time that I would use the internet. So I would be able to research all of these schools that I wanted to attend, as well as study for my SATs in preparation for me to come to America. So working in that internet cafe was like my first real job.
Oh, wow. And I like how you're a problem solver and an opportunity seeker all at the same time, ever since you were young. That's beautiful. So what would you say a good lesson you learned in life from that first job that you probably used as you moved up in your career?
I think it's all about perspective, right? Because I remember my classmates, they were like coming to me and saying like, hey, because I don't have internet, this American thing, I won't be able to pursue it. So in my mind, they were just focusing on the resource, saying that I don't have the resource, therefore I won't be able to pursue this dream. The lesson I learned through that experience when I look back was that I didn't focus on the resource. I focused on being resourceful. So it's reframing the question, right? And life is all about answering questions and more importantly, asking the right questions, right? So I'll give you an example. If you truly need something and you say to yourself, I cannot afford it, it disempowers you. You've lost all leverage you have on yourself, on your mind, on your action taking ability, because you're already, saying like, hey, I cannot afford it. But if you ask a better question, which is, how can I afford it? You start opening yourself up to the possibilities of how you can make it happen. So in my case, that's the true lesson, which is in life, you will always find yourself in a situation where you don't have something you need. So instead of asking yourself like, I don't have this, what am I going to do? Ask yourself, how can I get this thing that I need? And sometimes it might be in a very creative way than what you think about. So in this case, I wasn't thinking about solving internet as to having my parents find a way to bring it to our house, but I figured out a way where I could actually earn money while also getting free internet. So it's just reframing and asking the right question. So I think that's really it. And self-talk is the most important and most frequent conversation we have. So your ability to master your self-talk and ask yourself the right questions will really lead you to success.
Yeah. I love everything that you said there. It reminds me of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And when he talks about the lessons he learned from his rich dad and his poor dad would say, I can't afford it. How can we afford that? I don't have the money. His rich dad would say, how can we afford this? Like how can we do this? Like, that's a good question. Let's see how we can do it. Right. And there's two different mindsets. Right. So I love that. I love that. Speaking of books, I see you got some books there in the background. What's your favorite book? What's one of the favorite books that you've read that you would recommend to people?
Well, selfishly, it would have to be my book. I just published a book.
All right, tell the people about the book.
Yeah. I just published a book called The Spear Method, 5 Simple Steps to Balance Success and Fulfillment. And it really came up in really answering the question, how can I be successful and fulfilled at the same time? Because what I'd realized in life was that, there are people who would say like, hey, focus on being successful and then you can enjoy and be happy after retirement. And there are other people that were saying like, hey, be happy, don't chase success, blah, blah, blah. But if you're happy and you cannot pay for your bills, are you really happy, right? So I went on a journey where I really wanted to figure out, how could I balance the two, where you could be both successful in your life, where you don't have to worry about, money and you have all the materialistic resources that you want, a good house, a good car, to be able to provide the best life for your kids. But also at the same time, you're not sacrificing the things that you love to do and being happy. So I was able to interview, quite a lot of successful people, quite a lot of people who I believe are quite fulfilled in their life. And I realized that there was a framework called the Spear Method that they all followed. And the Spear Method, it's an acronym. The first letter is seek your purpose, right? I think it's super important to make sure that you know your purpose. There are so many people out there in life who are living life out of their purpose. And whenever you live life out of your purpose, you will never be fulfilled. You can end up being materially successful, right? There are a lot of miserable millionaires out there, a lot of miserable billionaires who've been able to acquire all this wealth, but they're not happy, they're not fulfilled because they haven't been living out of their purpose. It's like, let's say, if you were to take the Earth out of the solar system, right? It'll mess everything up because we're now out of that thing, that axis that keeps everything in check. So you have to do that first before you get into all the other steps of the Spear Method. The next step is planning. So once you've found your purpose, in the book, I have a framework and I talk about how to do that. You want to come up with a plan because failing to plan is planning to fail. When I went to college, I double majored. I majored in aviation because I enjoyed flying, and I also majored in business. And what I found was that in business school, they'll be like, hey, every business needs a business plan. And then I go to the aviation school where we're taking flight classes. They'll tell us, hey, every flight needs a flight plan. And, now think about your life. Isn't your life way more important than a flight or way more important than a business, right? But you find that a lot of people don't spend the time to really plan what they want to achieve in their life. Mm-hmm. So it's super important, once you come up with your purpose, come up with a plan on how you're going to achieve that purpose, because it's that GPS that's going to guide you to your destination. And then the next step is execute. Because once you find your purpose, and also once you come up with a plan, if you don't act on the plan, what's the point, right? So it's super important for you to actually take the time in executing what you put on paper. I like to say that the 3 most important days in life are the day you're born, the day you find out why, and each day you act on your why. Remember, we were talking about the small, consistent actions you take every single day that will then accumulate and grow exponentially into that, success. It's all about taking action. You look at anybody who's successful, right? They'll attribute their success to the action that they take. So you look at LeBron James. He takes action every single day, practicing, taking shots, and doing all of these things. And that's why he has the success that he has. You look at a guy like Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady was the 199th draft pick in 2000. He was selected in the 6th round. I didn't even know that there were 6 rounds in a draft. But how does someone go from being the 4th string quarterback to being the GOAT, right? 7 rings, the oldest quarterback. It all comes down to the execution he does every single day. So execution is really, really key, and it will lead you to success and the achievement of your purpose. And then the next one is achievement, right? So, Newton's 3rd law, every action equals to a reaction. So when you take action, when you execute, you're going to achieve something. It could be achieving that milestone you wanted to achieve, or it could be 5% of that. But what you want to do is you want to track that progress so that you know how to pivot and get a good understanding of how much more action you need to take tomorrow, because you want to continuously plan and execute and measure your achievements regularly. And then the last one is repeat. You want to repeat that whole process over and over again until you ultimately achieve your life purpose. And that is what is the SPEAR method. So I think it's a book that, anyone needs to read. You don't necessarily need to be an entrepreneur. You could be a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is, as long as you're someone who's living, breathing, and wants to contribute, to society and to your life as well. I think having a firm understanding of the SPEAR method will really help.
Yeah. I loved everything about what you just said there. And I didn't even know there was a method to this madness, because everything you literally said is how I repivoted my life. Because, how when you're growing older, your parents tell you, oh, my friend, you're going to college to be an engineer, doctor, or a lawyer, or one of these 3.
Oh, God.
Yeah. and then so you're set on this path, and you know that you're going on this path because this is what people told you is success, right? And then you get on the path. And then for me, what happened is it wasn't, although I was doing okay, I was doing good, I was making money, I was not happy, I was not fulfilled, none of that. And I started to look at the life of the people that I was about to go in and replace in the career, and they were unfulfilled, they were unhappy. And I'm like, is this the life that I want? And no, it wasn't. And then I repivoted, and I took a step back, did everything you just said in the SPEAR method, but I didn't know there was a method for it. And then I recalculated my life, and then I from a money standpoint, it looked like, oh, this is not going to be profitable, but I turned out to do even better than I thought I would in life, because I was walking in my purpose, and other opportunities came from it. That's why when I talk to people, I tell them, look, do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money. Let the money chase you. And what I mean by that is when you start working in your purpose and the things that you love, you'll start seeing opportunities that you've never seen before pop up in your life.
Yeah.
And people will start to pay you to solve problems you never thought they would pay you to solve problems for, because you offer a unique lens that nobody else can give them.
Yeah. We all have our unique gift. Yeah. And the idea is you need to find it, and then you need to share it with the world. Yeah. People make millions of dollars, right, by just sharing their unique gifts. Look at musicians or artists or whatever. And, it's because they're, operating in their zone of genius. Mm-hmm. The universe will reward you in that. So if your zone of genius is something else, and then you go into a certain career, because, your parents or society told you this is the safe way, this is the, right thing for you to do, but your zone of genius is something else, you will never be as successful or be as fulfilled as you would be doing this versus doing this other thing that's your zone of genius.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. Let me ask you this. What were the steps you took to get into your career and business? What like, how did you get down this path?
Yeah. So, for me, it was really just starting businesses. So like I mentioned earlier, I started my second business when I was in college, and it was a social entrepreneurship company. And this social venture, the idea was to donate a portion of our profits to educate kids in Africa. Because as I was growing up in Zimbabwe, I realized that there were a lot of kids that were not blessed as I was to even get primary school education in Africa. And unlike, developed countries like the US, public education in a lot of the developing countries like Zimbabwe is not free. So I would see kids, my age in my neighborhood who couldn't afford going to school. So I wanted to solve that problem. So I created a sustainable business that solved that. And what happened was, as I was now graduating and I started applying for jobs, it was obviously something I would talk about in interviews and put on my resume. And it turned out that this Fortune 500 company was creating a new division for entrepreneurs, right? For people who could come in and create businesses within their four walls. And because I had demonstrated that, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I started my college business with only $150 in my dorm room, they offered me the job. And I went into this corporate America environment, and I did my thing. I launched a meal delivery business that went from zero to over $20 million in sales in less than 3 years. I launched, another business as a collaboration with Anheuser-Busch. That also, took off, and I did multiple things, So what's important really was that I just kept on doing the things that I loved, even when I was like, let's say in school. I was like, hey, I'd like to be in business. I'm going to find a way where I'm going to balance being in school and being a business owner, even if it's starting a small business that doesn't grow. There's value in that. So I did that, and even when I was in corporate America, I started another business as a side hustle because, I identified a problem within the personal development space, and I created a business around that. It's called This Is My Era. It's a 90-day planner. And now we have an online academy, and we've been able to grow the business, sell tens of thousands of planners, and make a difference along the way. And now, I started a cookie company called Nunbelievable, which is a mission-based cookie company. For every cookie that we sell, we donate a meal. And we've been able to grow and scale that business fairly quickly. And we have some interesting backers in the company, like Tony Robbins, like Michael Loeb, one of the guys behind Priceline.com, Idea Lab, New York, and a few others. But it all came down from me understanding my purpose, which is I am on this earth to create profitable businesses that make a difference. If you notice that the businesses that I've created, they all have a social impact element to it. So with the t-shirt company I started in college, we're educating kids in Africa. The personal development brand that we have, it's still active right now. We also do provide quality education through our partnership with World Vision to kids in Africa. The cookie company that I'm involved in, we provide meals through partners like Feeding America. But these are all for-profit businesses, but they have a mission around them, a purpose, right? We're talking about finding a purpose. So all of these companies have a reason for purpose. And I even have a sports merchandising business where we have licenses with some of the top soccer teams in Europe, like Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City. And we provide scholarships to children in Africa, in regions like Liberia, to go and, play sports, because it's important for them to get both an education and also have access to sports. So that's another business that I started that is doing some amazing things in the communities that we operate in.
Oh, I love all of this. I was talking to somebody, I think about a month or two ago, about an idea that it's amazing that I'm talking to you today, because like you are the epitome of all my thoughts. Because I
Wow.
was talking to somebody about, it'd be so great if we had like another segment to capitalism, like conscious capitalism, where it allowed for business to operate from a social equity standpoint and an abundance mindset, because you could still grow a business and still have the social capital and there's enough for them to make profit and to also change communities, literally, right?
Yep.
And if people can understand these concepts, they would probably make even more money in their space if they did it from these different type of conscious capitalism type models. And so you're
Yep.
literally doing that. So hats off to you. What's one good lesson life has taught you?
To dream big.
Dream big.
I came to America with $40 in my pocket. You find yourself in a situation like that where you're in a new country, you don't have your family, you have no friends, you've left all your friends at home, and you're $40 and you're going into this, environment. You can find yourself, looking down upon yourself, right? Like your classmates are driving nice cars, they have family and all that stuff. But I didn't let that hold me back. In fact, I used that as fuel because I was like, hey, I'm here. There are millions of kids in Africa who would love to be in their situation, who would love to be in my situation, but they haven't gotten this opportunity. And I've decided to say like, hey, let me have my wildest dreams and just go out there and pursue them, right? Don't be fearful. The worst thing that could happen if you shoot for the stars is you'll land on the moon, which is way better than, thinking about the sky as the limit, mm-hmm. right? So, I think anybody has the potential to achieve great things. It might not be in the timeline that you would have hoped to, right? A lot of people want to be a millionaire in 12 months. Maybe you'll do it in 3 years. Maybe you'll do it in 5 years. But if you dream big and you take action on those dreams, you will ultimately find yourself in a place where you never thought you would be. So that would be the piece of advice I would share with people.
Yeah. I think you're going to definitely inspire a lot of people to dream big when they listen to this episode. So like, what would be some advice you would give to someone who would like to start a career in your industry? They see what you're doing. They're dreaming big now. There's like, I want to be an entrepreneur to, companies and do exactly what Kuda's doing. And when you give this advice, like think about the young kid who's graduating from college and who's lost and like, I'm not sure if this is the right career for me, or I don't know what I want to do. Or maybe I went down the route, but I'm starting to see this is not the career for me. Or somebody who's stuck in that 9 to 5 who knows they need something better and they're listening to you and they got a new dream now. What's some advice you would give to them?
I think first things first is it's okay to make mistakes. So even if you do something, I think there's always a lesson you can take from that. So I think that's the first thing. So I don't want people to feel bad when you say like, oh, someone is stuck in a 9 to 5, find out what is it you can take from that experience, right? Is it a relationship? Is it a mentor, that you can get and then apply it to your future? Because I always think that God puts us in situations, and within those situations, there's always the good and the bad. So you need to then make sure like you really focus on finding the good, because a lot of people spend a lot of time complaining about the bad. So that would be the first thing that I would say is that, hey, in your current situation where you are right now, identify those golden nuggets and then just mine them for all their worth. Mm-hmm. For the people that, need direction and they don't really know where to go, I just go back to what I was talking about with regards to the SPEAR method, which is go to the first step of the SPEAR method, which is seek your purpose. Mm-hmm. Take some time in really thinking about what's my purpose, what's my calling, what are the things that I enjoy doing. Email people who know you very well and ask them a simple question, what makes me unique, right? And once you quickly get a sense of like, hey, this is my life's purpose, now go out and pursue it, right? I don't necessarily mean like quit your job, quit everything you're doing, and then just start, on this journey. Sometimes there's a transition that needs to be made, right? So for instance, now I'm a full-time entrepreneur, right? But before I had to work at a Fortune 500 company, right? I had to have a job. I had to pay bills and so forth and so forth. And I spent over a decade working for this company, but I knew that it wasn't my destination. It was just part of the journey. So I think it's also understanding that there's a bigger journey that's happening, and where you are right now is not your ultimate destination, unless if you make it your destination. But you have the opportunity to get off that bus and get on another bus but you need to figure out what is the right bus stop, right? So you need to start making plans, if it's, i.e., saving some money to help you with that transition, or you can actually work on your business as a side hustle, right? So we always talk about the 9 to 5. I think that there needs to be focus about the 5 to 9, right? So what do you do once you get home at the end of the day, right? Do you just sit there and watch TV? You really need to think about how you're spending your time, because think about it. Time is a currency that we get to use every single day. When you wake up every single day, God gives you 24 hours to spend. So imagine if every day someone, when you wake up, would come and just literally give you, let's say, even if it's $1,000 that you have to spend today, and, spend it however way you want, but here's $1,000. How would you spend it, right? It's the same thing with our time. People don't really pay attention to how they're spending their time until it's too late. So the advice I would give you is also take a look into your time and how you're spending it. Because remember, it's a currency that you spend every single day. So as opposed to focusing on, hey, I'm in this 9 to 5 that I hate, or I just graduated college and I don't know what to do, go get a job so that at least you have some income coming in. And then for the other part of your life, right, of your day rather, spend it in kind of like those areas that you love. Because then if you then spend your time and invest in it, and you do it consistently, persistently, over time, you will then find yourself in a position where you can really transition and then do it full time.
Yeah, I love that. The funny thing is I just released a post today on my social media about the Eisenhower time matrix and how you can use that to make sure you spend more time doing productive things that allow you to reach your goals in life, right? So I think that's very important. Now, what do you think the future has in store for your industry? And I want you to speak to two different things. I want you to speak to the part of you that was an entrepreneur and was able to create, and the part of you that's an entrepreneur. And when you're looking at what's in store for the industry, what does it look like for, Blacks and Africans across the diaspora? What does the future look like for us in these different industry and spaces?
I think the future it all comes down to what the Blacks and Africans decide to do with their time, right? Because, the thing with destiny, your habits shape your destiny. The things that you do consistently every single day is what's going to shape your destiny. So I think instead of me trying to predict what the future is going to look like, I think it's more about a call to action to the entrepreneurs out there to say like, hey, take massive action right now so that you control your destiny, right? We can't sit back and say like, oh, they need to change the rules. They need to make it. No, go out there and take massive action and go for it, right? In life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you earn, right? So earn it, earn that future, earn that, dream reality that you want, right? So I think that's really it. I think if there are more, Black Africans or whatever who are taking massive action towards their dreams, I think it'll totally change the shape of the future. But I also want to call out, people, who have achieved success. So, I think there needs to be thought around legacy and mentoring the younger kids out there to help them become successful. And we also need to have a mindset of our ceiling being their starting floor, right? So that they're always standing on the shoulders of giants. So how can you and I, right, start investing in the younger kids so that the future could be bright? So I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. And more importantly, beyond the conversation, there needs to be action to really make sure that we help with the younger kids out there, and we breed more leaders into the society. Because I think the mark of a leader, in my opinion, is your ability to create more leaders, right? So how can we be having a conversation around how can we create more young Black leaders in our society? What do we need to do? What roles do we need to do actively to make sure that in 10 years, there's a dynamic shift on the number of Black-owned businesses that are publicly traded, the number of female Black, CEOs and things like that. It takes us fighting those battles. We are enjoying freedoms today that other people fought for us. So, for instance, Martin Luther King, right? He had to fight for our generation to enjoy what we're enjoying today. So what is the fight that we're doing to make sure that the future generations have a brighter future than we have today? So I think our actions today will determine that future.
Yeah. Now, speaking of mentorship, how has mentorship played a role in your life? Have you had mentors and have you mentored people?
Nah, I don't believe in that stuff. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I've had many mentors, and I still do have mentors. I think you always need to look at the people who've walked the road, who've been there, done that, for the things that you're trying to achieve, and learn from them. Because I've been able to, collapse time, right? So things that would have taken me 10 years to learn by myself, by having a mentor, I can learn it in a week, right? I can get advice on a call. And, I'm able to collapse time and accelerate. So I highly encourage everybody, regardless of your age, you can all have a mentor because, as human beings, we're quite complex. We have so many different areas of life. So you were asking me who I am earlier on, right? I have an area of life where I need a mentor for my health, right? How can I live a good life? Because a good, healthy life, because if I have the energy, if I have the health, if I'm wealthy in my health area of life, I'm able to actually do more, be more productive because I'm healthy. So I have mentors in that area of life. I have mentors in my financial area of life, right? How should I be investing money? How should I be thinking about my children's children? Because the mark of a good man is your ability to leave inheritance, not for your kids, but for your kids' kids. So making sure that I'm making the right decisions with my personal finances right now, I have a mentor for that. I have a mentor from a business perspective. We have many advisors, many people that I can call that can help answer questions, connect me to certain relationships, because that's the only way you're going to be able to accelerate in life. So I think it's important for you to have mentors, but I think it's also important for you to also figure out ways where you can also start contributing in other people's lives as well.
Yeah, I love that. We were having this conversation on Clubhouse as well, too, about mentorship. And there was a very interesting debate that took place around the article that was placed. I can't remember if it was Forbes or Business Week. I can't remember, but it was showing that in the world of entrepreneurship, Black women are increasing in entrepreneurship at an all-time high. They were leading the pack in all categories for women, over white men, other women of color, and even Black men, but surpassing Black men in a very high rate, leaving us behind in the world of entrepreneurship and business. And there was a debate on why is that? And, it's still an unsettled debate. Some people say mentorship, but why do you think Black women are leading in the world of entrepreneurship and business at such a high rate out of everyone across the world, including our Black men? Why are we being so left behind in this space?
I'll keep the answer very short and brief. I think they're badasses. That's it.
Okay. All right.
Meet my mom and you'll know what I'm talking about. Black women are powerful. They're badasses. And I think it's about time that, they show their true, power and prowess. So I'm happy to hear that.
Okay. All right. Let's end it off like this. What projects are you currently working on and where can people find you? I know you got the book. Tell me more about where we can find the book, how people can get engaged with you, social media, whatever. Let the people know.
Yeah. So from a social media perspective, you can find me on Instagram. It's Kuda Biza. So KUDA BIZA, Kuda Biza. And you can check out what I'm working on. I'm quite active on my stories and posting. So you'll get the full scoop there. You can also go to my personal website, spearmethod.com. So on the Spear Method website, you'll be able to read a little bit about my book, about me, about my speaking engagements, because I also do a lot of keynote speaking and workshops and things like that. And if you just want to connect with me, there's a form there where you can actually just connect with me and we can have a lot of fun.
What? You give out your phone number?
Sometimes I do.
You're a brave man. Give your phone number out to the world. All right. I love it. All right. So go ahead. What else are you working on? Anything else you would like the people to know?
Yeah. So from a project perspective, I think Nunbelievable is the project that I'm spending the most time on. So if you would love to help feed people in America, I think going on the Nunbelievable website and getting yourself a box of our delicious cookies would be something that would be great. And like I said earlier, for every box that we sell, we donate meals in exchange, 1 for 1. 1 cookie equals 1 meal. So we're really thrilled about the work that we're doing. We've fed hundreds of thousands of people since our launch last year, and we're really hoping that we can feed 10 million people in the next 3 years because the hunger issue in America is quite big, and we want to play our part in making a small dent in solving it.
I love that. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kuda Biza. Make sure you check out his website. Check out the book. I highly recommend it. From what I'm about to grab me a copy myself. I'm hoping that I could get him on again as we go through our journey in life together and hopefully work on a project. Kuda, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Any last words of wisdom for the people?
No, just go out there and crush it. I think we all have unique gifts that we can share with the world. And I think it's our moral obligation to actually find what those gifts are, but more importantly, share them with the world.
You heard Kuda. Go out there and crush it and share your gifts with the world. Kuda Biza, ladies and gentlemen, another wonderful episode of Risepreneurs.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Risepreneurs podcast.
Thank you for taking the journey.
Be sure to like, comment, and smash that subscribe button. And stay connected with Terrell on and off the show. Follow at Risepreneurs on all platforms.
Do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money. Let the money chase you.